friends, welcome back to the ThePCelitist for episode 1 of Woodsie and Shepherd's Week in Review. I am Woodsie.
I am Shepherd.
And the purpose of this new series is that, you and I, we're always watching what's going on in the news in the PC world, and we catch glimpses of news articles that interest us, but they don't always make it to the discussion panel that we have usually at the end of the week, right?
Yeah, a lot of them on their own merits are not really discussion worthy.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that it's not important to talk about them.
It's nothing that we can dedicate 15 minutes to talking about that one thing. It's just sometimes we have a few thoughts we like to throw back and forth of each other, which usually happens a lot via text message or email.
Yeah, it happens offline, so our loyal subscribers don't get the pleasure of hearing these conversations.
Right. So for a long time, I thought, well, it should be interesting if we just had something to highlight of news stories that we enjoyed in the past week. And maybe...
it's important to note that this is not breaking news. We are not going to be your first source for any kind of breaking news in the gaming industry. We are getting this news secondhand from someone else who's reporting it. So this is more of our news stories that caught our eye in the last week or so, that we just have some quick hit thoughts on, and we'll be covering, sometimes just one, as many as like 4 or 5 in an episode. So this is just our way of making quick hits on things that caught our eye recently. And it may be the case that you already have heard all of these things. That's not really what this is about.
But you haven't heard our opinion on those things.
Exactly, and so we'll actually be delighted if you've heard about all of these things. We just want a forum that we can use to have a conversation with you about these things.
Absolutely. So let's get right to it. Our first subject comes from the fact that we've been playing a lot of Battlefield 4 when we've had free time together, and it is not without its glitches, Battlefield 4.
Yes.
It's so bad at times that they needed to apologize for it.
Yes, the infinite one-hit kill. Infamous.
Infamous, yes. Which from day one, I could have swore. I said, I feel like that guy just killed me in one hit, but I had no proof of it.
I'm really only experiencing it. And if you don't know what this, go ahead and refer to what it is, and I'll give my little.
Well, one of the major glitches is just it's exactly what it sounds like, the one-hit kill glitch, where
the non-headshot one-hit kill.
Yeah, you're just moseying along in Battlefield 4, and it doesn't matter where you get hit with a bullet, you are dead the second it lands.
And you say to yourself, there's no way that me running on uneven terrain allowed that guy to hit me in the side of the head. Right. I've really only been noticing it with the DMR, the designated marksman rifles. It just feels like I only heard one shot and hit me in the side of the head. I know I wasn't less than 100% health. And like you and I only play on hardcore, so we don't have the HUD, we don't have the health meter.
Right.
But that also means that you're likely to die much faster. So we understand that. But it does feel like there are just very frequently we'll be running along and I'll just get taken down one shot, and it's frustrating. I mean, when you play hardcore, you expect that life is fragile,
right?
But this actually, they're now admitting, is an actual problem.
Yeah, and what bothers me the most about this, it's not that games have glitches. What bothers me the most about this, and DICE and whatever their issue is that their beta period is so short. And I think everyone understands at this point that DICE specifically uses the beta as just a marketing ploy to get people interested in the game.
To whet your appetite.
Right, and they sell the beta off early. They tell you, buy this game and you'll get into the Battlefield 4 beta, right? That lasts 4 days. But had you actually had a legitimate beta, you might have caught this stuff beforehand. And it might seem semantical to say, well, if they catch it in a 2-month beta or they catch it a month into a full release, what's the difference? But I think there is a difference, right? It's it might feel like it's not this, it's just what's the difference? But you're selling something that's supposed to be complete. You're telling people this is a finished game, and some major glitch makes it through because you didn't have a proper beta process. It's
and we're not saying that games should always be released fully polished. That's obviously the goal, but there are some things you just can't really discover in testing, or that don't really present themselves in testing, because you can't test for every possible scenario. People are putting in millions of hours across the world, and it's just that the law of large numbers says you're going to have more reports of these kind of things. So we're not asking for perfection, even though PC elitists usually, by their nature, should demand perfection. But we would expect for a game that is this hyped, this well funded, that you would have caught this sooner. And it's not, we're not focusing solely on this problem. I think there are other larger balancing issues. You and I have had offline conversations about sniping in the game and ways in which that they could balance it a little better.
Right.
But this just feels like something that, like you said, should have, could have, would have been caught had they had a more intensive beta.
Right. Well, they're paying for it now, so at least they're just saying that their entire comment is, we're going to put everything on hold, which, you know what? We as gamers will never know if that's actually true. They're saying it, but we never know.
Yeah, China Rising is too close to the finish line for them to put that on hold. But what they've said, to their credit, is that, at least in terms of what they're saying, that they're putting all these other expansions on hold until they fix this. So on its face, I commend them for making this statement and taking these steps, realizing there's a problem that the community has spoken loudly of, and they're trying to fix it. So to their credit, they're trying to fix it. But like you said, it could very well be that they had kind of built in this time as a pad, and they're not actually, it could be that the teams that are responsible for working on other projects are not the teams who are responsible for fixing these kind of problems. If it's a QA thing, their QA staff may just not, it may be such that for these other projects, their QA staff doesn't have anything to do because the other expansions aren't fully developed yet. So these may be people who would be kind of not sitting around, but you know what I mean?
Right. Well, internal issues aside, they should have they should have a proper beta period. That's my thing. Just whatever your internal issues or how you want to stretch it. I don't think they have a proper beta issue, but they're working on it now. So that's
what you're saying is, if they had sent you this game in January, you would have found it.
Would have found it already. Okay. So our next stuff on the docket is Telltale Games making Game of Thrones. And you had some specific thoughts on this and
Telltale,
revelation.
Yes, Telltale, if you don't know, are responsible for the Walking Dead series and The Wolf Among Us. And so clearly they have already established a foothold in kind of, I'll use the word episodic games, but games that are released that are not just standalones, where the sequels are more episode 2 as opposed to freestanding sequels. So they announced the last couple of days that they're going to be making a Game of Thrones series. I had mixed feelings when I heard this news. I love The Walking Dead game. I'm very fond of The Walking Dead TV show, mainly season 3, 2, and 1. Season 4, let's not get into that. But so at first I was like, oh, this is awesome. Now, also disclaimer, I have intentionally avoided Game of Thrones, the show, because I want to read all the books before going through the show. That's been a severe intentionality of mine. So I don't have a context to which to say, oh, this could translate into a very good video game. However, as excited as I was to say I have faith in them because they did such a good job with The Walking Dead and creating compelling, very story-driven content, I am wary of this because I generally don't think it's wise to turn to turn TV shows or movies into games, even if it's kind of based on a book, then a show, then a game. I just think it's a risky practice. One, because it's hard to be original. It's always do you make something that is you have creative license with, or do you stay true to the original content you're working off of? But I just think there are usually only 1 or 2 ways to do it right and 500 ways to do it wrong. So I'm skeptical about this, only because I don't want it to be such that they kind of got lucky with Walking Dead and that everyone loved it, and that now the expectations are so high that they just feel like, well, we already had success making a TV show into a video game. Let's keep doing it.
Right.
That's what worries me.
I understand that, and I, as Telltale Games, I would be worried as being that developer that people throw licenses at, and you just make the game. And like you, I haven't really watched Game of Thrones, so I don't know how well. This is where I would get worried, how well Game of Thrones works into what Telltale has already established as their game style. It might, because Game of Thrones has a lot to do with politics and intrigue among
the broad themes are there, but what they said in the statement, and we've posted links to all of these stories that we're referring to. What they said in the statement is basically that don't expect basically the action and the sex, 2 major components of Game of Thrones. Don't expect that. It's more about the story and the characters, because if you played The Walking Dead, the combat is a very small part of the game, and even the actual combat itself is not really what you would traditionally call combat in video games. So
right.
It'd be very interesting to see how, even though The Walking Dead, the show, and even the comic books and the novels there's a lot of combat, but it usually comes in waves,
Right.
Large confrontations. But it'll be interesting to see how that translates. So I would really be curious to hear from people who are listening who do follow Game of Thrones, either the books or the show or both, if you think it could translate well to a game, what you think are opportunities or challenges in doing so.
Right.
And is this the kind of game that you think you'll be interested in, at least giving a try?
Yeah. Interesting. So moving on to our to dev, to our third subject, which was a developer,
Tecmo,
in Japan. They put caps on microtransactions for kids underage, their spending limits.
Yes.
Which is not really, this isn't really a PC issue, but generally these are things that we feel have interesting commentary on, or things going on in gaming, though, generally we try to stick to PC stuff, but this is
in response to, and the story mentions one example in particular of a 5-year-old in the UK racking up about £1,500 worth of in-game, it was a zombie game on an iPad, and this kid got the password from his dad to download this free zombie game. And in 10 minutes, he bought like £1,500 worth of in-game content, in-game add-ons.
That's just a good gamer right there.
Yeah, his parents didn't realize it until the next day. Japan, in an effort to kind of convince parents that they're concerned about children being lured in by not really understanding that real money can be put into games like this, not understanding this business model. They've capped it such that anyone, I think it's under 16 and under, can only spend about $20 a month. Anyone 17 to 19 or 16 to 19 can only spend about $50 a month. It's $50 a month for the real minors, or $200 a month for the late adolescents.
So mind you, this isn't Japan doing this. This is Tecmo.
This is Japan, and this is likely not going to come out west to the United States.
No, I mean, it's not the government of Japan, right? It's Tecmo, the one company.
Yeah, it's just this company in their games that that you'll have to register your age, and then they'll place these restrictions. Right. So yeah, this is not really a PC gaming issue currently, and I don't think it ever will be. What's interesting to me is the reason I don't think this will likely become a PC gamer issue is demographically, it's more likely that people who play PC games are not so much in the 13 to 21 bracket; they're more in the 20 to 75 bracket.
Right.
I think it's interesting. I think that. I'm glad to know that we are trusted because we're more likely to be adults. This isn't really going to be our issue. But kind of this just speaks more generally to some societal things about parenting and how do you legislate this kind of problem.
This is just more of a general, parents, watch what your kids are doing.
Yeah,
please. And what's funny, I think, is that IGN, we're reading this report off of an IGN story, but it's basically there's been a string of these cases, and then a company decides to put a cap on it, which kudos to the company privately if they feel that this is an issue and they want to put in these things. But then the comment on the bottom is by IGN, they ask the question, should governments be looking to legislate this kind of thing? Which I know most PC gamers just hate censorship in general, so it's one of those things that would never really carry over. But I think it's interesting to make that leap. Once one company does it, should the government be putting it? But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
The last thing I want to say about it, just fundamentally, in terms of the cap that they decided, what person who's 13 years old, they decided on a cap of $50 a month. That's $600 a year on a game for a microtransactions.
Right.
I feel like if you're spending $500 a year on microtransactions, you have a problem.
Right.
And for someone who's at 16 to 19, if you're spending $200 a month, I feel like the thresholds are a little high. I still think the problem is they're not so much worried about the one-time kid making a mistake. It sounds like they're worried about the people who are legitimately addicted and are siphoning a lot of disposable income into microtransactions.
I just want to know if after $1,500, did he win this game?
It doesn't sound like he did.
So it's not pay to win. After $1,500, if you did not win yet,
but at the £2,000 level.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
get it. So the last subject we have up is has to do with Riot Games. They had You know more about this than I do. They had a policy where their professional gamers couldn't stream other games.
They have what's called LCS, which is League of Legends Championship Series, I believe. And the pro teams, kind of like you have StarCraft 2, you have these pro teams. The pro teams who play League of Legends, either they were streaming their own games on either Twitch or they were doing on YouTube. They were posting their own footage. And Riot developed in its contracts with these teams and individuals that they could not also be streaming or posting footage of any of the competitor games. So they, if you're a professional League of Legends player, you couldn't also stream your StarCraft games or your Dota 2 games. So they were basically saying, we don't want you to be using your notoriety that's probably gained from League of Legends to promote other titles.
Right.
And so they came out with this policy, which was met with a lot of disdain, both from the gamers themselves and from people who like watching their games because they wanted to watch these gamers do what they do best on any title.
Right.
The first response from Riot was, well, this is mainly targeted at, we don't want our competitors to be paying teams that we have contracts with to also market their titles.
Right.
So that seems kind of less egregious.
They're trying to avoid a conflict of interest with what they're trying to avoid.
They didn't want, and that makes sense. If someone is famous for playing your game, you don't want them to then parlay that fame into promoting someone else's, game for profit. But after seeing the reaction within 24 hours, they changed the policy back.
Right.
And so the reason I wanted to talk about this is not so much because I think in and of itself this is, kind of egregiously newsworthy and how dare Riot. It's more of it's interesting that they didn't anticipate this kind of reaction. And it's interesting also to see how quickly they changed their tone once they saw the response they got from it, which I think is generally a good thing. And there's another story which we didn't really plan on talking about, but I think you saw the rep from Nintendo who basically said, yeah, if 100,000 people sign a petition that want us to do a particular thing, we're not really going to listen to it.
I did not see that.
Oh, okay. I'll have to send you that article, and maybe other people have read that as well. I wish I had more of the details memorized. But yeah, it was something to the effect of, I think a bunch of gamers want, and not to stray too far, but like a bunch of gamers signed a petition to get Nintendo to bring back some franchise or to put it on the Wii U, something like that. And the rep basically said 100,000 signatures does not equal 100,000 sales. So we're, you can bitch and moan all you want, but we're not really going to listen to it.
Well, I mean, the LOL community has a very strong community in their opinions. They often get a lot of things done through the acts of the community as a whole. It doesn't surprise me that that they would change their policy based on community outcry, because it makes perfect sense. Like, you don't get to censor people who play your game professionally just because they're under contract to play your game professionally. It just doesn't. Yeah,
but you are within your rights to conclude in your contract, while you're under contract with us, you can't be
under contract with someone else.
Yeah, the non-compete clause in that sense, like that's kind of standard across multiple industries. So that makes sense. It was just interesting that it's kind of separate. It's, for one, is you can't make money from a competitor while you're making money from us, but it's in your personal streaming or posting on YouTube, you can't kind of promote these other titles. I think that they agreed they went too far.
Yeah, interesting. Well, that's cool. Anyway, so those are our quick updates, our news segments for the week. Those are things
stuff that caught our eye.
We're going to be doing this on a weekly basis, so you can look forward to this every Monday of just things. And we appreciate if you wanted to link anything you find interesting to us that might go under our radar.
I would absolutely love it if we would get emails or messages throughout the week from subscribers of pieces of news that they saw and they found interesting that they wanted to get our thoughts on.
Yes.
I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, so this is a new thing for us. So we're not immune to change, So this is an evolving thing all the time. So, but please let us know what you think. Thumbs up this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you like this channel. And for me, I am Woodsie.
I am Shepherd. This is the PC Elitist, signing out.